re kopanye re ka hetsa kgethololo.
متحدين لإنهاء العنصرية.
Dushize hamwe mu kurandura ivangura.
Unados terminamos el racismo.
Kwa pamoja tunatokomeza ubaguzi.
United we end racism.
Good morning or good evening, depending on when you're joining us. Hi, I'm Karen, and I'm delighted to be your host for this virtual event. Interfaith Works' annual Duck Race to End Racism and their annual Racial Justice Awards. United, we end racism. We'll have the usual duck race fanfare of corporate races, community races, entertainment, youth projects, and prizes. And we also have the benefit of the Racial Justice Award, where we have the opportunity to honor those individuals and organizations that have made a tremendous impact in dismantling prejudice and racial inequality. Well, let's get started with Beth Broadway. She's at Interfaith Works. She wants to welcome you and give you a virtual hug. We'll also hear from our corporate presenting sponsors, Syracuse University and National Grid. And we'll have entertainment by community performers. Here's Beth.
I'm here today because I wanted to say welcome to the 20th annual Duck Race to End Racism, which this year we are calling United We End Racism. And it is a combination of both our Racial Justice Awards, where we honor people from our community who have done so many things throughout their lives and are currently working to end racism and to bring about racial equity and racial justice to our community, as well as to celebrate the work that all of us have done here at Interfaith Works and across this community to end racism. This event has been going on for 20 years, both the Racial Justice Awards and the Duck Race to End Racism. And we are welcoming you as part of Interfaith Works and as a part of our community in general, which is anxiously looking for the day when we can really look back and say, racism is now ended, all people have equal access, and the system that has kept racism in place is no longer there. Today you're going to be hearing people from all over the community talking about why they're committed to ending racism, what we've been doing in the community to end racism, and also a celebration of the work that all of us have gone through. And I want to thank you for listening to us today and being a part of a community that is all about ending racism. Thanks for being here.
Syracuse University is happy to be a longtime sponsor of the Duck Race to End Racism. We know that 2020 was a year like none other, a year that we dealt with a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic, COVID-19. We've also had another pandemic, and I refer to it as racial injustice. A number of protests from 2020 ignited concern, but it also raised our consciousness with respect to the racial injustices in our society. Many would say that these injustices have occurred 400 years prior to 2020. The other pandemic, or the third pandemic, would be economic plight. The economic issues of our society continue to be of great concern. So we really dealt with the pandemic trifecta. All of that speaks to our attention to the human condition, elevating the worth and dignity of humankind. And we have to be mindful that racism must be stamped out in the process. At Syracuse University, we are doing a great deal to work with our campus community, elevating racial equity, the understanding of equity-mindedness through a series of workshops, a series of presentations, and a symposium. In February of this year, we held the first and what we hope to be the annual Racial Academic Equity Symposium. And this symposium provided the opportunity for our students from across the campus, as well as national speakers, to come and share their thoughts on racial equity. They're realities that they've put into practice associated with racial equity. And for us to, once again, engage in dialogue about how we can move the pendulum forward in understanding the difference between equity and equality while still elevating both. So when I think about the campaign United We End Racism, I think about my own life as a man of color, as an African American, and how important it is for us to move our country, our society in a forward direction, because we have to be united in this process. We have to be united in this struggle, but we also have to be united in our own strength to make our world better. Again, I would like to salute Interfaith Works for their hard work in this arena of ending racism.
Line dancing is a form of traditional dance in Chinese cultures and many other Asian countries. The dance consists of two people, one who controls the head and one who works the rear end of the lion. They work together to bring the lion to life. Traditional martial arts are a fundamental part in performing. It uses kung fu moves and postures to help with the movements and stances of the lion. Lion dancers imitate the animal's various movements and attitudes while demonstrating martial arts agility. You would think that two people with vigorous energy could bring a lion to life. However, lion dances are performed accompanied by the beating of drums, cymbals, and gongs, which synchronizes to the lion's movements and actions. Along with a vibrant lion, you often see the laughing Buddha in a red robe. It is said that the laughing Buddha guided the lion towards villagers to bless them with good luck. As they wind down the streets, people will feed lisi, red envelopes with money inside, to the lion to bring fortune and good luck to their families, shops, and more. Firecracker is an important factor in traditional lion dancing. You'd often hear the loud sounds of firecrackers going off, believing that they are to celebrate the new year. However, the loud noises of the firecrackers are meant to chase away evil spirits while inviting the lion to come and help welcome the new upcoming year. Lion dance is customarily performed during the Lunar New Year, grand openings, weddings, and many other celebratory events to bring peace and prosperity to those who the lion have blessed. Lion dance plays an important role in Chinese mythology. You may hear many different stories of how these lions came to be, but one thing for sure, lion dance brings you luck, fortune, and prosperity if you're lucky to meet one. Every family has a family heirloom. For us, it's the skills of lion dancing and Shaolin Kung Fu. It's important for us to appreciate and keeping our tradition alive. It tethers us to our history and our places of origin. We learn to trust each other both on and off the stage. We learn that no matter where we are in life, Doi Lang Chung Niel will always tie us together.
National Grid is once again very honored to be a presenting sponsor of the Duck Race to End Racism in support of the great work of Interfaith Works and the El Hindi Center for Dialogue. Supporting the dialogues are an important way for the community to be able to learn, share, and grow around the critical issues of inclusion, equity, and diversity. And by being a part of this program, National Grid continues its commitment to those important issues. At National Grid, we like to look at the focus on inclusion, equity, and diversity in 4 categories. The first category is representation. What do we look like as a company? How are we represented? What is the makeup of our employee group? How are opportunities made available to people joining the company, or once employees do join the company, how do they progress? And are inclusion and diversity included in that process? The second is education. We need to make sure that all our employees have the tools that they need to understand the value of inclusion, equity, and diversity, and to apply those lessons through their day-to-day work. Next is communications. Cultures don't develop or change quietly. They change on the way that messages are delivered. And by repeating and communicating the importance of inclusion, equity, and diversity through all our channels, we can reinforce the value of what needs to be done at a corporation, at an organization like National Grid, to ensure that everyone has the tools they need at the pace they need to become champions of inclusion, equity, diversity. And then finally, something I like to call saturation. That's an effort that has to be intentional to make sure that the education and the communication and the representation doesn't stop at the executive suite or doesn't stop with our office employees, but reaches all our employees, including our employees in the field and, of course, our colleagues from our unionized workforce. National Grid is your electric and gas utility, and as such, we are proud of the service that we bring to the communities, but we also know that we need to reflect and represent the community as best we can. One way to do that is to have a workforce, to have a team that can work with you, that looks like you, that acts like you, that behaves like you. And that's where inclusion, equity, and diversity comes in. I'd like to say thank you to my fellow businesses and corporations in the region who have participated in the duck race and other projects at Interfaith Works. It's through this collaboration and this investment by the business community that Central New York can grow. And lastly, and most importantly, may the best duck win.
Wonderful performance, thank you. And thank you again to Syracuse University and National Grid. Up next is the corporate sponsored duck race and winners. And we have a special segment. We talk to our community partners and ask them the question, what does United We End Racism mean to you? We'll hear from the mayor, the county exec. We'll have more performances and Racial Justice Award honorees.
So many stories run around the streets. Read them at bedtime, read on the news, read on TV. We open up a link to see somebody down. We feel it in our chest. We feel it in our head crown. So much fog, so much space, so many different ways we can take But in unity, we are all one. See, these indifferences came far, far, far before we were young. They're carried on and recycled, replayed over and over again. And the main screen they're televised is right in our head. But a lot of these indifferences, they simply come from labels. These labels tell stories, but simply they're fables. One energy, one life, one world, coexistence is peace. But a lot of us still find liberty in taking others out in the streets. It's safety that has to be in hand. It's peace that has to have the upper hand. But right and left we can join to be one. It doesn't have to be cloudy when there's trying to be sun. See, the weather, the storms, they exist deep within. And it's only when we search for the reason of kin that we all can come together as one, understand that we were given this life to experience as one. See, I understand how the indifferences can pull, how you have two separate sides, but paying in one toll. We're all searching for different answers, but in all reality, we're all in the same store. But we can't take out of the hands from others and expect more. To give is to open up the gates from that which we cannot see. To give and to serve is beyond reality. See, we have to bring it here from a space that only exists up in the head, but we have to erase the fog. Erase the sorrows, erase the dead. Whatever does not feed life anymore has to be turned to something greater, far beyond. It takes one step forward in the direction that nobody else is going to open that door. With all of the things happening in the world, it's easy to feel like, what can my voice do? But speaking up through your words is the choice to show the world something beautiful. And it doesn't even have to be lyrical. It just has to be true. Whatever you're feeling, open up your heart and see what this world can do. We close down our hearts and we suffocate the very thing that breathes life. This is how we end up in so much strife. But even when you think that there's nobody collectively coming together, there's things like this that pop up and show us all that we are not severed. We may be disconnected in mind, but in heart we can all feel. That's why when we see it on the TV, it seems like we're there and it all looks so real. So the passion is good, don't get me wrong. And standing up for what is not right, that's my favorite song. But anti is only supporting one side of the whole problem. We have to be standing for pro-peace, pro-love, pro-unity. Because when we're pro, we're inclusive. And I know it's easy to dismiss this, to make it discluded. Because you can say it sounds so easy in words and so beautiful in a little rhyme. But you don't trust your instinct at the drop of a dime. So you build your complex and grow in this space. Even if you find yourself alone, you are safe. See, because who you are infects everybody else around you. The words you speak, the things that you believe have an echo and touch the lives. And it makes it true. So what are you speaking? What are you preaching? What do you stand for? If you had a little kid standing at your feet, what would you tell them when you open that door? It's in each and every one of us to change. Each and every one of us to come together, to find a common ground. Because yes, we all dance and sing to our own songs. But when we come together, it makes everything total. And understand why a circle is round.
Hi, Mayor Ben Walsh here with a special message for everyone participating in the virtual Duck Race to End Racism event. I wish we could all be together, but the importance of this work, whether in person or virtual, has never been more significant. Here at the city, we have a vision for Syracuse to be a growing city that embraces diversity and creates opportunity for all. And in order to be successful in achieving that vision, we need to do everything in our power to end racism in our community. I'm so grateful for the partnership of Interfaith Works and so many others in the community that work with us on this important endeavor. Again, thank you all for participating. I hope to see you all in person next year. Take care.
United We End Racism means to me that we're in this together and that we all have a role to play.
Really, the United part jumps out at me.
Point out racism when we see it, even if that's within ourselves.
Being a part of a movement, a collective, collaboration.
We are called upon to self-reflect on our own words and actions.
That means when you see something, speak up. That means it starts at home.
The place that I then have to start is what work I need to do on myself as someone who is committed to anti-racism and committed to dismantling white supremacy.
Having the right conversations and collaborations and the table by which we can begin to address some of the systemic barriers that have created this oppression.
Our policies and attitudes perpetuate racist systems that disproportionately and negatively impact communities of color.
Without us being united and being willing to have uncomfortable conversations and kind of speak truth around the issues, we won't end racism.
The work doesn't belong to any one person or any one group.
We can't do it by ourselves. We need people from all different walks of life.
And not just offer financial support, but moral support and physical volunteer support.
To make sure that we are all doing our best to provide the equity that people deserve.
We have to address the systemic issues.
Why is it that certain zip codes have the highest rate of poverty and are the most hungry communities in Onondaga County?
If we continue to be silent while other people are marginalized, while other people are not being treated equally, then we're going to continue to be divided.
And so as a white person, for me, that really means having to be honest about and continually look at the privileges, the powers that I am given as a member of dominant culture.
We have started a social justice discussion group.
And we're looking really to eliminate race-based discrimination.
We are partnering alongside several other churches and organizations that are already on the ground doing the work.
We help and serve everyone, no matter how and where they come from.
We believe that by having volunteers that represent the communities, we can create better access and trust within the community for people to receive our services.
We've participated and helped youth participate in protests and rallies and marches.
And by exposing them to different people and different ethnicities and backgrounds, they understand the importance of diversity. I think it's very dangerous when you are secluded without diversity, and sometimes you get comfortable in that space.
Part of my work as an individual, and again as a white person, is to be working to bring other people into that conversation.
Spend a lot of time not only learning about U.S. and world history, but integrating that into what we've achieved and what we haven't achieved.
We must come together to engage in the lifelong work of redefining and challenging our practices that are rooted in white supremacy.
It's important to begin to have the dialogue with people who are not only affected, but people who can also affect change.
And it was really awesome to partner with the Center of Dialogue and to hear some perspectives from refugees and people that had just started living in our country.
I think it's important that we continue to support Interfaith Works, knowing that they are one of those organizations that are constantly working to end racism in whatever form it may take.
That's the work that we have to do, and it is work, and it's not easy work, and it's not comfortable work, but it's work that we have to do as a community collectively to make things happen.
I think it takes all of us, it doesn't matter if the person is black or white.
We have found that we have more allies than we ever thought before.
We started to begin to use our staff meetings as places of introspection.
It's not always easy, but finding ways to help other people who don't understand.
Build bridges with other organizations in the community and support them on their journey to dismantle white supremacy.
Building all of our understanding together around what it means, what racism means, and how it operates in aging services.
Our board has begun working with staff to hold us accountable to learn more, reflect often, and carry out our principle of ensuring we represent the communities we serve.
It's not just united we stand, it's united we act.
This is the year that we don't let the news die off.
Embrace it, embody it, learn from it, and make sure that history does not repeat itself.
Hi everybody, Onondaga County Executive Ryan McMahon here. And although we're virtual, we're here celebrating an important event for our community that we work with together each year. I want to congratulate our friends at Interfaith Works for continuing this virtual duck race to talk about a really important subject, addressing racism in our community. Our diversity as a community makes us stronger. It makes us interesting. It brings together communities from all over the world here in Central New York. It helps our economy, it helps our people. And as a community, we've been through a lot for the last 16 months. And I think what we've learned is when we work together on complex issues like a pandemic, we can work on complex issues like systems and systemic racism. So I look forward to being part of the solution, and I encourage everybody to continue the dialogue. Thank you.
Bam, 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 bam. 1, 2, 3. Hey, 1, 2, 3. Hey.
The dance itself, just the dance in general, is it definitely brings people together. The type of dance that we do is very popular in the United States, given the fact that there's so many Hispanics and Latin American descendants live in the United States. It's a very specific dance that it's done in Cuba during Carnival time, and it's like people rehearsal a different dance for that specific conga dance. It's called conga line or comparsa, and they have different group and they rehearsal, and then they dance on the street. Many different group dance on the street, right behind, in front of the drumming. So there's a drumming going on, and then there's a bunch of dancers in front. So, and then it's many groups doing it at the same time. And then some people join, on the street joins, and it's like a festival of dancing. It's really fun. You have a little bit, like I'd say, you have a Chinese trumpet, they call it, because the drumming is African influence. And it's called conga or comparsa, and it's usually done in Carnival, but people do it in parties. Usually it's an event. They end it with a comparsa, so it brings everybody together.
Hi, I'm Shukai Chen. I'm privileged to be part of dialogue programs through Interfaith Works and at Syracuse University, where I'm a professor of electrical engineering and computer science. Every year at graduation, distinguished speakers tell our graduates to go out and change the world. Well, I'll tell you a secret. You don't need a diploma or a fancy degree to change the world. All you need to do is engage in a dialogue. Now, how is this world changing and why does it matter? Well, it changes the world because everyone who engages in a dialogue gets to know other people and their stories in safe, deep, challenging, and inspiring ways. Everyone's worldviews are changed and updated in ways that highlight and reinforce our shared humanity by building bridges and common ground. Every bridge built, every bit of common ground created upon which we stand together changes the world, and as such is anti-racist. That's why dialogue matters, and that's why dialogue is needed. I've been part of the community-wide dialogue to end racism since the mid-90s, and I'm one of the Inclusive Excellence facilitators for the College of Engineering and Computer Science at SU. Facilitating a dialogue is hard work, a huge responsibility, and a privilege. As facilitators, we meet people where they are, as individuals and as a group, and we get them to where they need to be. And every time I've been a facilitator, by the end of the dialogue, my respect, appreciation, and admiration for each person in the group has increased. Over the years, this has taught me to look for the good and shared humanity in every person I encounter. I'd like to think that dialogue and facilitating dialogues has made me a better person.
It's an honor to honor our Racial Justice awardees. And we begin by hearing the voices of our youth. Our awardee, participants in the School Exchange Dialogue, Seeds of Peace, and the Classroom Quackers Quilt Project.
What was the dialogue experience this year like?
I think for me it was a really nice sort of grounding experience during the week. I know Wednesdays have been like very chaotic all year because we're doing asynchronous and there's sort of like a lot going on virtually this year anyways. So it was sort of nice to have that like an hour and a half, 2 hours every 2.5 hours, however long it was, to just meet with the same group, whether that be bigger group and then smaller dialogue groups like Alexis was in my smaller group.
I feel like one thing with dialogue is that you can always like have it no matter what. Like even over Zoom it still kind of feels like sort of the same because it's just a discussion, it's just a conversation. You can do that on Zoom, you can do that in person, and they're really hard-hitting conversations that are really important to have. So
I didn't really think about my race, and I usually don't, but I do have Spanish origins, so that makes me Hispanic even though I have white privilege. So I don't normally think about that, but this dialogue really, it made me think about it more than I usually do, which is a valuable life lesson.
I never really knew what like the Nottingham or like the Henniger experience was, so it was really like the fishbowl was like really eye-opening to like what the culture was like in other schools.
Well, one of the dialogue sessions was about how we have like our own implicit biases, and I never realized how I also have like my own implicit biases and how that affects me.
In order to address inequality and institutional racism, we have to talk about it. So
we'll start to kind of like look at each issue that we have with like a different, like through the lens of race, which I think is really important because I feel like we don't do that enough.
I think it's really important just to take that more like granular person-to-person approach rather than trying just to make it a huge issue rather than a local one.
There's many things that need to be addressed before there can be a solution, and there's just so many layers of oppression and hate and discrimination that need to be unraveled before there can be a solution.
It's hard, but I think through dialogues like these and getting to know everyone's voice, we can make a change and end racism.
Student voice has sort of empowered this experience so that we can move from it not just like a 6-week session, but
continue forward.
A good reminder for people would be to like start local and like focus on like the community that you live in first, because you know it is sort of like a ripple effect. Once you like start to focus on your own community, like other people might be inspired by that, and it's like that's what like United Against Racism is.
So I've known Nadia for, say, 6 or 7 years now. And so when I learned that she staged a walkout, or she organized a walkout in her school, I can't even say that I was surprised. I think that through these last 6 years, I mean, the experiences that you've had and the person that you are really prepared you for something like this.
She's an outgoing student. She is a senior, and she saw something that didn't sit right with her. She saw something that could be changed. She saw something that could be improved for the better of future students that didn't benefit herself, and she chose to take action on it. And I think that's what matters most, that she is leaving behind a legacy at West Genesee that's going to make our school more inclusive and more accepting to all students, and I think that's what's most important.
Seeing the pictures of the George Floyd challenge like going around my school kind of made me realize that something needed to be done. When I first saw the pictures, I was just really upset because it wasn't right. And so a group of friends and we came together and we led a walkout. Personally, I put myself in the shoes of the freshmen that had to go and be in class with these students. I would have been extremely uncomfortable, and I know my freshman self wouldn't have been able to do what I did. And so I know that me being the really loud and like crazy person that I am, I still wouldn't have been able to speak up against something that was so obviously wrong. And so I did it so that they wouldn't have to, and so that the younger students of color wouldn't even have to face problems like this, because it would be talked about. And I know that what I'm doing isn't going to end all racism, but I know that it'll be handled properly going forward, and that students will really think twice before doing something like this, because they'll be educated on the topic.
Nadia, we at Interfaith Works are very proud and very honored to present the 2021 Racial Justice Youth Award to you for your action this year at creating awareness, not only among your school district and your student body, but to all of Central New York. We all paid attention. We're all watching what happens. We are all participating. Many other school districts will make changes, and when we listen, we will learn. And I think that's the way change is made. So congratulations. Thank you for receiving this award. Thank you.
So creating welcoming spaces for me is part of creating equity, because if students don't feel welcome, if they don't feel like they're centered, they never see themselves or hear about themselves and their joy and their strengths and their potential, then that too is a form of oppression.
I nominated Diana Perez for this award because of her teacher leadership here at ITC. She brings racism and discussions about racism and just inclusion of all ethnic groups and racial groups into her everyday classwork. She has helped a few of our students earn their New York State Seal of Biliteracy awards for the last 3 years. Diana has been facilitating our community-wide dialogue along with ITC, and we partner up with Tully and Baldwinsville High School the last few years. So Diana has been an integral part of facilitating that.
Ms. Perez is an incredible Spanish teacher. It's not just a Spanish class, it's also a place where we can talk about issues and like race and like the government and how we feel about that as the next generation coming up. And like she takes time out of class just to do that, and I think it's very important to know that we have an adult like that there to help us.
I'm constantly looking at my teaching practice as a white teacher and asking myself, you know, whose voice is heard here? Who are my students? Do they feel seen here? Do they feel represented? Because I teach Spanish, I'm always thinking like, you know, am I showing the full breadth and depth of what it means to be a Spanish speaker and to be from a Latin American community and culture? Sometimes that means, you know, doing things like making a list specifically of what I'm doing in my classroom, holding myself accountable for doing my own work to undo biases that might be present in me. But then also looking at my curriculum, looking at the images that I'm showing in class, looking at the content that I'm providing students. And then also at a building level, you know, like what are we doing as a building to make sure that students feel welcome and feel represented? And what are we doing to look at systems of oppression that might be showing up in our school, in our classrooms, and undoing things that need to be undone?
Congratulations, Ms. Perez, for winning this award, and thank you from all of your students for everything you do for us. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Diana Perez, on behalf of the ITC Communication for winning this year's Racial Justice Award.
Diana, on behalf of Interfaith Works and the Al Hindi Center for Dialogue, we are honored to present the 2021 Racial Justice Award to you. We are so proud of your work. We're watching your work, and you are an example for so many teachers at how they can incorporate the racial equity lens in their classrooms and create more inclusive environments for their students. So congratulations, and thank you for your work.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Hi, I'm Andrea Jacobs, a dialogue coordinator here at Interfaith Works, who works with so many students from many, many different schools in Central New York to have courageous conversations on race. Throughout this video, you have seen Quackers the Duck, our duck race mascot, who always reminds us to not duck racism. Not ducking racism looks like this. Sometimes it just begins with talking about our identity and our experiences. Many different classroom teachers participated this year in the Quackers Quilt Project, which was a classroom project designed to get students talking about themselves and doing some self-reflecting. They had discussion questions such as, what is diversity and what is community? Then they had journaling prompts such as, I matter because, I can make a difference because. The students then used all of their thoughts to decorate squares that they put together as a quilt to represent their classroom diversity. We thank all the classroom teachers who opened up space, safe space in their classrooms to have a courageous conversation on race and identity. One teacher shared an email with us, which we would like to share with you today.
We completed the Quackers Quilt Project with our third grade class. The activity went extremely well. Before beginning the project, I read the book I Am Enough by Grace Byers. We used the project discussion questions to have classroom dialogue about diversity, personal and social identities, and community. We spoke about race and racism. The students used the journaling prompts to reflect on our discussion. I could tell that the students put serious thought into the reflection based on their responses. Even while the students illustrated their squares, they were really thinking deeply. 2 students even wrote, I am enough on their squares, as well as highlighting other parts of their identities. I typed up an excerpt of the book, I Am Enough, and have been displaying and reading it daily to the class. It reads, I'm not meant to be like you. You are not meant to be like me.
Sometimes we'll get along and sometimes we will disagree. I know that we don't look the same, our skin, our eyes, our hair, our frame, but that does not dictate our worth. We both have places here on earth. And in the end, we are right here to live a life of love, not fear, to help each other when it's tough, to say together, I am enough. Since the activity, we have continued our classroom dialogue on racism and celebrating diversity. Thank you so much for uniting us to end racism and for all you do.
So often I still see that there's a stigma around the word black and centering blackness and black people. And I wanted to really make sure that I was amplifying, uplifting, and centering a community in a way that was joyous and was vibrant and robust and nuanced. And so I really wanted to make a point of bringing attention to that there's a community that still is grappling with and navigating these negative stereotypes, and to really kind of recenter a community and ask people to engage us in a more nuanced way.
When I think of Chayla, the first word that comes to my mind is grace and just intelligence. I had the pleasure of working with Chayla, I want to say 11, 12 years ago. She is co-founder with me at the Black Artists Collective of Central New York, and it all started on her back porch, just talking about how our community needed a platform and a safe space for Black and Brown artists to flourish.
She reminds you of the work that needs to be done, and she opens the door and invites you in. Just because you're the age you are, Vanessa, does not mean that you can stop doing work for social justice. And she helps form that bridge between social activists and community people in Syracuse. And so she makes those connections again, across neighborhood lines, across East Side, West Side Syracuse, across age, across color, across our sexual identities. She is that catalyst that keeps us connected in Syracuse.
I chose that you and your brother would be in the kind of environment that was about change, and who was making that change, and that you could make change. Right.
Dare to be uncomfortable, because often I am. There are so many spaces in which I grew up. My mother is a classically trained opera singer, and I remember going into spaces where we were the only brown people there. But absolutely it was that we deserved to be there. We had a right to be there. We had something to offer that was important. And I think, again, that's a common thread that weaves through the social justice work that I do and the spaces in which I am doing art. Myself, Kiana Williams, Jaleel Campbell, Martika Williams, and Alice Olam. We came together because there was a recognition that there was a void and a desire for Black and Brown artists to have a space in which they could program, a space in which they could advocate for each other, and also to come together collectively when we were looking at policy or funding issues. Also, a part of that is the Black Leadership Coalition, and that is a cohort of people who came together and, again, recognized that there was an absence of participation with the Black and Brown community in terms of politics. I can remember in particular an incident of going to Syracuse Stage, and there was a moment in which all of us laughed. And I even now I get goosebumps because I understood then that there was something universal and important about art that I feel like offers an opportunity to have some really challenging conversations. And so, as much as I'm getting this award, I'm also really pleased to have my mom here and to really think about all the people who poured into me, how important these different aspects of social justice and art are.
Well, Chayla, we are very honored to be presenting the 2021 Catalyst Racial Justice Award for your change making in Syracuse. We are so glad that you're part of the community, our community. We're watching you, we support you, we will attend all of the things that you do. Overall, we are proud to have you here, and we are honored to give you this award, and we hope that you accept.
I do, thank you so much. It's amazing.
The community duck race is coming up. But first, I want to tell you that the United We End Racism hosted an ice cream social in June with our Northside neighbors, because ice cream and fun is definitely part of the duck race. Hopefully next year we'll be together, but right now we're still practicing safe distancing. Coming up is our final racial justice organizational winner and a big announcement from Interfaith Works. Stay here.
I think Syracuse Stage has made a commitment, regardless of receiving this award. I think that it's just part of their DNA. They just believe in the diversity and inclusion of all in terms of taking and participating in the arts. One of our greatest collaborations is 100 Conversations for Change, in which Syracuse Stage willingly and voluntarily joined our organization and having some difficult conversations around race, inclusion, and equity.
Our accessibility programming has really helped bring a broader audience into the theater. And American Sign Language, we have programs, we have open caption programs, we have audio description programs, we have relaxed sensory friendly programming, audio enhancement programming, and we have really been trying to improve our wheelchair seating and accessibility. Because I was lucky enough or blessed enough to be introduced to theater at an early age, I've made a commitment to do the same, right? And Syracuse Stage has made the commitment to do the same. And at one point, we were reaching 35,000 students in Onondaga County through the productions that we were doing and the invitations to bring students to Syracuse Stage. And I'm hoping that after COVID, we will get beyond that 35,000 and really, really enhance our programming with the Syracuse City School District.
It's a priority that around the board table we think about who is at the table, how we want to talk not only to each other, but to engage with the community and to make our anti-racism work a priority on our agenda at all times.
Our education programs reach over 10,000 kids, sharing stories to them about different aspects of life, of human life. So I'm very honored that Syracuse Stage is getting this amazing award, because it really says about the ongoing work that we all have to do, and it doesn't stop here. We hope there's a day that we're never going to need this kind of award, right? I think that that is really important, that we're constantly looking at people and seeing their story, seeing everything that comes behind them, and also seeing the story of their future, what they're capable of doing. There's a great line in Annie Easley where she says, "I see you, I see what you are capable of. You can reach the stars." And it was her belief in building a rocket for NASA that we ended up going to the moon.
It's a funny thing to consider accepting a recognition for this work, because we're so keenly aware that there's not an end point, there's not a done. There is only continued conversation, continued progress, and a way forward. But we're really proud of some of the things that have happened here in the last few years, and of the ways in which our organization's commitment to anti-racism manifests in our work.
You know, and the work has been on pause this past year with the pandemic. We've been pivoting to online work, which has allowed us to really gain access to people who wouldn't otherwise have been able to experience Syracuse Stage. And so we really have worked to make a commitment to make sure that work is relevant, that it's focused on issues important to the centering social justice and racial equality in all that we do here at Syracuse Stage. And that's the standard that we're setting for ourselves internally, and the standard that we hope to reflect as we begin to go back to live performance in the fall.
We think a lot about the part of Stage's mission that has to do with seeing life beyond our own experience, and while that manifests on the stage, so much of what we've been doing here has to do with our internal operations, how we make sure our staff are all rowing in the same direction, as it were, and that we have the same vocabulary, that we can continue to move forward for ever more equitable hiring practices, to make sure our board, our staff, the work on stage represents our community more and more with each passing year.
We know we've got a lot of work to do, and we're committed to taking that journey with our staff and hopefully with our community in the days and months and years ahead.
Bob, Jill, and Joanne, I'm very proud to represent Interfaith Works, giving you the Racial Justice Organization Award for 2021. To you, to the board, to the staff, and to all the artists involved, you are an integral part of our community, and we are honored to present this to you this year.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to receive this award from Interfaith Works, and on behalf of everybody associated with Syracuse Stage, we're grateful for everything you all do for our community, and we accept this award on behalf of everybody associated with Syracuse Stage.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Beth Broadway, President and CEO of Interfaith Works, and I want to thank you for our honorees, the work that you have done for our community, and congratulations on receiving this very, very important award. We have an announcement to make today. We're making some big changes here at Interfaith Works, and one of those is that we have hired Colette Matthews-Carter as the new director of our new department, the Ahmed and Elizabeth El Hindi Center for Dialogue and Action. It's a merger of our interfaith initiatives, our action programming to bring about racial justice, as well as all of our dialogue work, which we've been doing for 25 years, to end racism and bring racial healing to our community.
I am so excited and just honored, humbled to be able to step into this position. So the Center for Dialogue and Action, it seeks to really promote racial and social equity through dialogue to action. And the action is the piece that we have been evolving to over the last several years, and we're hoping that through this new initiative that we'll be able to be more transformational, provide even greater services as we do dialogues at the university levels, at municipalities, through our school districts, and really give people a place that they can now hang their hat and actually do the action and do the work of racial and social justice, and not just the dialogue, which is also important.
So quack, quack, quack. And we're very happy to have made this announcement to you first time.
On behalf of Interfaith Works, we extend our appreciation for being with us. And we thank the many individuals, organizations, sponsors for making this virtual event a reality. We trust that you were entertained, stirred up, and most of all, inspired, because together we are united to end racism.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan Burdick.
My name is Violet Burdick. We want to record a song that's named Love Can Build a Bridge.
Yep. And thank you very much for having us be part of this year's event.
Yeah, really, thank you.
I'd gladly walk across the desert with no shoes upon my feet to share with you the last bite of bread I had to eat.
I would swim out to save you in your sea of broken dreams, but all your hopes are sinking. Let me show you what love means. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time?
I would whisper love so loudly every heart could understand that love and only love can join the tribes of man.
I would give my heart's desire so that you might see. The first step is to realize that it all begins with you and me. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? When we stand together, it's our finest hour. We can do anything,
Anything,
anything.
anything.
Keep believing in the power.
Build a bridge between your heart and mine.
Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's yes, I do. Love can build a bridge.
Oh, love and only love.
Heart and
Mine.
love can build a
Love and only love.
Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Thanks, everybody.